Hey, Paul Morrow back for another edition of Smart Financial Lifestyles, and we have on our podcast today, well, which we call Nothing Good. Nothing good happens last minute. We have a great long-term planner and a great example, an inspirational person that I want to introduce to our audience. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul.
And you'll
Happy to be
see
here.
from her little identifying code on her screen, we call her now Andrea Spano, but she is the daughter of Lou and Anna Sorgi. So I would call her Andrea Sorgi Spano, but she wants to be Andrea Spano. That's okay. She is the part of this magnificent Sorgi family we've got to know over the last 30 years, full of attorneys and smart people who really take everybody's best interest at heart. And they have different niches they work in the legal field. Some of you have seen Lou if you've looked online and watched his presentation at our last event in September. We had a couple hundred people who were like dying to talk to Lou about all things legal, most of which he handed off to his wife Anna and his daughter Andrea. All right, so we'll get to that later. Okay. So Andrea, for the people that don't know you and don't know the entire Sorgi family history, let's see if we can condense it a little bit to a 3x5 card. Tell me a little bit about your family and background and where you grew up. Um, and then we'll talk about the whole path, your pathway to what landed you in this career.
Yeah, sure. So I wasn't always in this career. I grew up on the South Shore of Massachusetts and in like a very American family with like a brother and both my parents, and ended up going to, graduated high school, was an athlete my whole life, and then went to Penn State for undergraduate. Now, in a family of attorneys, I decided I was going to be an art major. So I went and majored in arts and architecture, and I loved it. It was great. And I thought that was going to be my career path going forward. I met my husband well, now ex-husband, but I met him at Penn State and, you know, had a very like typical early 20s career path where I was in the art direction field, did some project management, and that was all well and good. So I came, we lived in California at the time. We moved back to the Boston area after a few years. And then I started working in like project management and in sort of like jobs that were available regionally, which was like a lot of software and tech company stuff. And then I got married and had a family. So I ended up having two kids of my own while I was working. And at that point, I slowed down with work. I dealt with raising my family, and I had a son who had some like special needs that had to be addressed very intensively. So I really couldn't kind of go back to work the way that I did before, um, which was okay at the time. But coming out of that, um, I needed something and wanted something different. So and I was also going through a divorce at the time. So, uh, with all of that, I decided that I was going to try my hand at law school.
All right, so we're back with Andrea, and we're talking a little bit about her personal life. We'll call it phase one, which was leaving New England as a high school athlete to go to Penn State to be an athlete and to also get your education in art and architecture, having a creative in my family, otherwise known as my daughter Bianca. I kind of get that. I mean, there is a career to be had there. But
Absolutely.
uh, watching my daughter from a distance, it's a very intensive sort of full-time job. And what you decided sounds like when babies came along, you decided that you had to maybe shift down from fifth gear to third gear or something and uh, back off a little bit on that kind of work. You were telling us you were seeking something different.
Yeah, and it was kind of a combination of a lot of things. One was like, the intensity of having being like with two kids, and then, my marriage wasn't doing well, and having moved back to New England, there wasn't as much of a like industry for what I was doing, which was a lot of like graphic arts and art direction there. There is some industry, but not as much. So I morphed that into sort of managing software and technology. So I did that for a little while, and then, like I said, I had my kids. My marriage wasn't doing well. It just I needed to stay home. And the culmination of all of that was when things got more structured and better with my son's special needs. Um, I decided it was time to make a change, and I decided I would go to law school.
Okay, what year was that?
That was in right around the end of COVID,
Yeah,
actually.
like
That probably
20,
prompted my decision as well.
21. Yeah, well, COVID changed a
Yeah,
lot of people's lives, but
it did.
in this category of being a superstar survivor, I mean, I think that for the folks that are listening, I mean, we want to make sure that we home in on a couple of themes here, and one of them is that you're a great success, but not necessarily because every part of your life has been, a smooth running, well-oiled machine. I mean, things happen,
Exactly.
and
Yeah, and I would say,
you bounced back from a couple of great things, Andrea, and you're
yeah,
doing
and I
great.
would say those things kind of helped define the path that I took. Because if I didn't experience kind of the adversity or the difficulty navigating a corporate career with kids, sort of in a personal life that was a little bit in chaos at the time, I wouldn't have turned to a new solution. And my solution at the time was law school, but I very much did that because I knew that I needed to and wanted to sort of forge my own path that I couldn't forge well working for others in an industry that made it would have had me traveling a lot, wouldn't have had me as home as much. And so it really was my solution to kind of my lifestyle and the way it came into play.
Yeah, you have also, I have to say, now I can put a plug in here because being a dad myself, I have to plug your folks because, I mean,
Yeah,
you did hit the lottery when it comes to parental sort of situations. I mean, I know Lou and Anna very well. So a lot of, you got more than just their genes from them. I mean, you got a lot of this
absolutely.
like work ethic and survival skills and stuff. And so, not everybody gets the benefit of having a great set of parents like that.
Absolutely.
You did, but
Hmm.
you also didn't throw it away either because among the four or five most important things in life is family. So, of course,
Absolutely. And
that
I'll say that they continue to be an integral part of my life and in many, many different ways in my kids' lives. And it can't be overstated that I've been around sort of the legal profession my whole life. As much as I said, no, I'm an art major, I am in the arts. It's been in my obviously it's in my blood. So it was sort of a natural decision to go that route. And I couldn't have been more supported in that decision with everyone around me and still am.
Yeah, it's really funny. I was talking about this with my daughter Bianca the other day because I was kind of running through her. She's sort of a very creative, and I run a lot of creative things through her. And I said, well, I'm going to be doing I'm flipping from superstar retirees to some younger people that are more the subject of my wealth building book and stuff. And I said, I find this Andrea story really funny because it's like by osmosis. When I graduated from college, I went to Northeastern. I had a lot of jobs through co-op to find out what I didn't like, but I ended up being in a film grip and I was working in Hollywood on movies, right? And then I don't know what happened. It's like I got hit by lightning or something. I recruited myself to the financial industry in San Jose, California, in between a couple of movies. My dad had been in the financial industry his whole life, but did not promote me going into it. Actually told me when I told him I was going to do it, he says, you can do it, but anywhere but Connecticut and anywhere but with me, because he said, you will
Oh,
always be the boss's kid. So it was really funny. You got this from your family by osmosis. It just sort of, I mean, unless they
yeah.
tackled you and injected
No,
into you.
they always supported my decisions when I didn't want to go into law, and they supported them when I did. I don't think they thought I would have an aptitude for it the way that I sort of naturally um happened, because I think they just thought I was like the artist of the family and the one that took their own path. And then when I kind of picked it up, and it did come like more naturally, I think, just the way that you kind of have to think as a lawyer, and just the way you wrap your head around certain um issues and matters. And yeah, so I think that were it caught them by
Well,
surprise, and they were
yeah,
fully
well, it's really
supportive.
good. I mean, I would say again, and sort of give a plug. I mean, for your multi-generational family firm. I mean, you guys have a lot of capabilities, but you also have a very deep well of empathy, and empathy is super important. Plus, also that
Yeah,
comes from the fact that your life has not been a complete bowl of cherries or placid ice or whatever you want to call it, because you've had some
absolutely.
ups and downs and bumps and left turns, including, career change and all that stuff. So tell me how you're doing it. How are you balancing? And this is an inspirational one for the young moms that are out there, and the young dads that might be single parenting with a career. It's a juggling match. I mean, you could be in the circus. I mean, you really are a master juggler. Tell me how you do it.
Well, I think all moms deserve that shout out because regardless of their situation, I think moms, especially nowadays, juggle a lot. I think in my situation where I had mentioned I'm divorced, and I am a single mom, I have primary custody of my two children who are both, well, now they're middle school aged, but um, it wasn't easy. I had them while I went to law school, and what I did was I leaned on the people that were near me. So my parents, their grandparents, were very helpful. And
So
I
where
stayed
did you actually go to law school, Andrea? Did you do it all in person, online? How did you put it together?
So I went to law school full time.
Okay.
And I did that in person mostly, although a lot of online classes are offered
Greater
at that
Boston
time
area.
because of
You
in the
stayed,
greater at
you
New
came
England
back,
Law.
New England law. Okay. So you
Yep,
stayed
New
in the
England
greater
Law.
Boston area. You did that. Okay.
Yep. So I did go in person. I was the great thing about New England Law is it's one of the few schools that do offer part-time, but they also offer flexible paths to graduation. So they expect a lot of sort of second careers and like working people with there was a lot of parents there. Um, so I was able to work around my kids' schedules. I took most of my classes while they were at school. And then when I was in law school, I was still married, not yet separated. It was only sort of towards the end of it that we separated and got divorced. And that was also difficult because after law school and juggling all of that, it was then finding a career path. So I knew and know now that I was never going to be able to go to a big law firm and work 60 hours a week at that law firm and kind of pound the pavement like most of these young attorneys coming out of school can do. I just knew that I had to be a parent and to run a household and do it all by myself, and to essentially launch a career. Um, so what I knew going in was that I was going to have a non-traditional path of practicing law. And what it did was allow me to get creative about how I was going to practice. I always had the support of my parents, but I knew I was going to do law similar but different to them, because I had the experience.
So what do you mean by that? Because I know that your folks have a lot of capabilities, and I know they've worked with my family and extended families and clients, and I know they have great capabilities in the real estate area for real estate closings and mortgages, and they have a lot of capabilities in the estate planning area for transferring assets. So what slice of the legal world or what piece, right, appeals to you the most?
Yeah, so I mentioned my son has special needs, so I navigated a very like adversarial process of getting him the education that he needed while he was a young kid, knowing that he had severe dyslexia and nonverbal learning disorder, a lot of these various disabilities that affected his ability to access his curriculum. So going through that as his mother and advocating for him, I really saw a side of the law that was very meaningful and meaningful to me. And then after that process, I kind of knew it inside and out. And I knew that I was going to be able to help other people. And I knew there was a lot of people out there that needed a lot of help. So um, I decided in law school towards the end of it that I would focus my area of law in disability law. So, and that's a broad kind of, there's a lot of different ways you can go with that, but primarily what I do is special education law, and I help with special needs planning and special needs transition planning. So, what that does for me is obviously I've been able to forge a meaningful career that is finally is like it feels like it fits, and it's a sector of the field where I've been able to do it in a small kind of firm capacity so I can have a client list. I can work from home quite often. I can manage my schedule around um, my family and kids' needs. And that also allows me to sort of work alongside my family without actually doing the exact same thing. So, on one hand, I kind of, and I feel very, very fortunate. I shouldn't, again, understate this, that they practice law already. So, I was able to take my little subsection of law and sort of fold it into Sogi Law Group, where my dad does estate planning and my mom does a lot of real estate. I now do a lot of disability law, which has its role in estate planning. So,
And I also think, I will tell you, having spent 50 years doing this and working with lots of families, I mean, when people sort of say families, I mean, there's a lot of children. And there's a lot of children out there, and I know many, many cases I've had personal exposure to. There's a lot of children who probably could access benefits, but their parents don't have the bandwidth, for lack of a better term, to go after and represent them. And because it sounds to me like what you do is you help people get through this bureaucratic peanut butter they have to swim through to kind of get to benefits that their children might be, eligible for. And also to, I don't know if you work in this area, but to represent children whose parents are maybe not quite capable of representing them for one reason or another,
yep.
And so I think it's great. And you're authentic. I would say it would seem odd for you to go into patent law or something and to work on the patent for the next Mark Zuckerberg invention when you have this PhD in real life of
Yeah, yeah.
being a
And I,
mom, you
yep,
know, being a mom,
absolutely.
being a working mom with a child that needed to get through the system. I mean, that's actually probably something you didn't learn in law school, right?
No, it isn't. I mean, I took the courses I needed to for disability law and they were, very helpful. But the part of, and I did have that advocacy kind of drive that I brought to it, but you know, you you learn by doing. And so having had that experience before I started practicing it was instrumental because not only was I able to apply the law to the facts of the circumstances, but I was able to relate to the clients in a way, and I still am able to relate to them in a way that I think you really have to go through to understand. And that's what disability law really spoke to me, even with like special needs planning, transition planning. That's all, there's nobody tells you these things. There's very few like roadmaps without having gone through them, whether it be education, whether it be, adult special needs planning. You really lean on your resources that you have and you have to kind of learn as you go. And so kind of being like a voice for some of these people, in addition to doing their like legal work, was important to me and still is. And so I think
Do
that's how.
you do you find that a lot of this? I have a woman that I know for many years that works in a similar niche of the law industry, and she often refers to this as a bureaucratic battlefield. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean it is a bureaucratic nightmare, which really intimidates a lot of people, and they just give up. Even
Oh,
folks
totally.
who are entitled to either workman's comp disability or other disabilities. I mean, it's just that and disabled veterans and this, people who by definition get harmed or disabled or they're sick or they have I mean, that uses up a lot of their bandwidth anyway, just like getting through life with their issues, right?
I
So,
mean, I remember like personally, I remember having to take my son every day, drive him 35 minutes both ways, and to different things, and then just watching my neighbors who had similar age kids just kind of send their kids out the door to the bus stop. And I'm like, wonder what that's like, because you put so much time and like energy into getting what your kids need, and it's all it is. It takes so much time and energy and effort. And so your life is not, these clients' lives are not the same as kids with people with neurotypical kids. And there's so much bureaucracy. So you have to navigate the bureaucracy. You have to navigate your personal life while you know you got to navigate work and you got to navigate your kids, and everything is just learning, and nobody tells you these things. And so it's you and sometimes, and it doesn't go away always, it just changes, right? So what was maybe the school bus, I wonder what it's like watching, kids get on the school bus at the bottom of the driveway, turns into, oh, I wonder what it's like to watch your kid, you know move into their own apartment. I wonder what it's like to watch your kid, um whatever the normal milestones aren't necessarily the same. And so as a um just as a parent of a really any kids, but as a parent of special needs kids, that definitely is something that they navigate that is relatable from like my perspective. And um it helps.
Yeah,
It helps any mom.
there is something about being passionate about your work too. I have to say, anybody who's listening to this can tell you didn't exactly go into this just for the money. There is a reverse thing that happens when, especially, we meet young people and we're talking about wealth building, and there's a whole group of people in today's millennial class of young people, just getting out of college. A lot of them essentially reverse, they flip the script and they say, I'll go into anything for money, when actually it doesn't work that way. If you go into almost anything that you're passionate about, the money comes later and you'll be
Yeah.
successful. But they flip the script upside down because they're so economically focused. And I'm certain you're going to be like super successful and you have the energy and the durability. But I don't think your job's going to get any easier. I mean, I don't want to get too political about it, but it seems to me that the fighting through the bureaucratic battlefield to get, you know, whether it's medical benefits or disability or this or education. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier in the
No.
future, right?
No, it's not. And I think you're right, though. I mean, to speak to, it's a very common thing. And I did it in my early 20s. What am I going to do to make money? What am I going to do to make money? I was always more driven by like what sort of I love and what I thought would like motivate me. But that's a huge concern. And I think it becomes more clear that when you have to choose between like work and home, once you have kids and a family, or even like as a single mother, you it becomes clear that work will never win. Like you have to make money, of course, but work will never win if when you have these like competing priorities. And so if you can make your work something you're passionate about, then you kind of have it all, because you don't have to choose, right? So that's kind of how I ended up where I ended up in life, and having taken different turns and having faced adversity. And I think I focused on like small goals um with a big like goal, and I didn't let that deter me. And then because it can be overwhelming to look at changing careers, right? Like you look at changing careers and you look at going into something you love at the expense of maybe like, for me, like I did not go into a well-paying 60-hour-a-week job. I went into this unknown small little firm in an area that none of my family had ever experienced. And um, I was able to make that, you know, my bread and butter while also having the flexibility. So I feel like I ended up exactly where I want to be, where I needed to be. And I have a like business client list that's just growing every day. I'm able to get my kids off the bus. Well, one of them, I still have to drive the other one, but I'm able to get them off the bus, and then I'm able to make them dinner. Well, I actually don't really cook, but if I did, I would make them dinner. But
Well,
I try. I
I would
try.
say that is
I feed them.
one gene you didn't get from Anna. Well,
I did not.
maybe she does takeout. I don't know. All right, so you're in about 6 chapters in this book on wealth building, and I want to hit a couple of them, which is, and I want you to just be honest about your opinion, because you're looking backwards now a little bit, even though you're very young. You've been through some of these things. And I think in the book on wealth building, it's about the definition. Everybody has their own definition of wealth, their own goal for money, whatever, right? And it really doesn't serve anybody's purpose to like chase somebody else's goal, right? And not establish your own. I mean, you seem to have been a person who has now figured out what your objective is, your definition of wealth. I remember, for some people, the first time they felt wealthy is then when they could go to the gas station and say, fill it up instead of
Yeah.
$2, you know? I mean, and in your case, these things are going to go very quickly because, you know, in 10 years, your kid's going to be grown up and it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So what would you tell, let's say, the graduating class of, North Reading High School? If they invited you in to speak to these young people that are about to launch this like next phase of their life, what would you tell them that you've learned even so young in your career? I mean, what have you learned about the top three or four things that they should be thinking about other than just making money?
Yeah. I think like first of all, it's okay not to know. Just kind of go out and do something because there will be twists and turns, and those can be scary, and you're not locked into the first thing you set out to do. I think it's very common to be afraid of that. And if I had sort of stayed the course of what I was doing, it didn't take a level of risk. Um, it I wouldn't be sort of where I'm at now. Um, I think it's also very, very important at that age to realize, like, I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, this is an overwhelming goal. Like, this is an overwhelming thing I have to achieve. How am I even going to get started? And the way that I kind of navigated everything, and especially when when I was facing kind of a huge goal, like before I started law school and then to now, was I just kind of took it like one little goal at a time. So I knew what I kind of wanted to do, but I really only was looking at like the goal that was right in front of me. And then once I get to it, I kind of hit that next goal. So it never really looked like a big, huge, overwhelming thing that was like, oh, I can't do this. I always just took it step by step. And I think coming out of school, particularly high school or college, you just have that sense of overwhelming, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get there? And you just have to focus on one little thing. And also, it's okay not to know your passion early on. Like, it's okay. You might think you like one thing, you might decide you hate it. Just change and it's okay. So I guess that would be my best advice, just based on what the unorthodox path that I took. And like, there will be adversity, inevitably. Everybody faces some adversity, whether it be something big or small. And like, if you can just kind of realize that it's temporary, that you're in control of your own destiny. So you have like the ability to get through that adversity in any way that you choose to, then I think that is important as well.
There's a quote that I have in chapter 11 in the book about what to do first at age 25. And I think it's kind of like really, you didn't say it, but I'm going to say it for you because it really sort of also represents your situation because of the fact that I know your family and I suspect, like a lot of folks, that you had people around you who maybe didn't sort of give you the confidence that you could reach all the goals that you had. So Mark Twain says, keep away from people who belittle your ambitions. Okay. The worst thing in the world is to be surrounded by folks who keep saying, Andrew, you can't do it. It's impossible, right? It's beyond you, whatever. And it's the best thing in the world. And again, because I know your parents, I can just imagine I can see your mother in cheerleader clothes on the sidelines, right? With the pom poms and the whole thing. But I do think that it's important to have people who say, your goals are real. They're your goals, they're not anybody else's goals. And it is a very famous saying. It's about who you hang out with too. You can't surround yourself with people that are like negative
Mhm.
or that have very uh different sort of visions of life. I mean, I think that's a really powerful thing. And there is a couple of other things about making mistakes. By the way, I'm in the club of having you know not got it right the first time in part of my life. And I think that Warren Buffett has a great thing that we say to every young person who's like, they're getting involved, they're dating, they're doing romance. I know, having been a product of the 60s and growing up, I mean, I probably didn't have enough analytical checklists, when I got married the first time. But Warren Buffett says you don't just pick a spouse, you pick a life.
Mhm.
And when you hook up with somebody, it's a really big deal. And unwrapping that is like untangling a web of a ball of knotted string. It's just so difficult. So taking a little bit more time with some of those like super big family decisions like that, I mean, is really important, right?
I would totally agree with that. I think it's very easy to kind of get caught up in early 20s. Everybody's getting married, having
Yeah.
babies, and that's great. That's great. But you're right. Your life gets, I was married for, oh my gosh, I was married for over 10 years, but I was with the same person for like 19. And it's very easy to get intertwined in a life that is very hard to untangle. And then, my personal experience with divorce is that as the person, and this is often the woman, I hate to say it, but it is like, as the person that took a step back from a career to raise my kids, I had a level of dependency on my ex-husband's income. And so, you know, during that divorce, you end up in a place where you're like, wow, what do I do now? Because you have to really pave the way. And so I think that you're right. That's huge. Really take a moment to like, we had a lot of fun in college. Everything was great, but like I never had the foresight to think about like were we going in the same direction? Are
Yeah.
our values aligned in that way? And so I
Yeah, we
think
kind of joke about my 28-year-old son Nick having a checklist, and I think it's great that he has a checklist.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know how well that's going to work out, but he's exactly right there, and all of his friends in New York are getting married and everything. And I do think he is much more thoughtful person than I was at his age, for sure.
yep.
The evidence will show. I guess if we are in court, I'd say the evidence shows that Paul was not that careful the first time. Paul and Andrea were not that careful.
Paul and
Anyway,
Andrew
so
were not that careful.
right. Okay, next. Let's go on to something like more financial and et cetera. Your folks, by the way, again, and I did a speaking gig with your dad recently, and he's very, very knowledgeable in this area of multi-generational planning. And your mom is really experienced with real estate. And this whole idea of having families living together in multi-generational real estate, building ADUs, what we used to call in-law apartments and all that stuff, it has great financial benefits, but there's something else. So, Andrea, if you had to pay for childcare and weren't able to get the support of family, I'm sure you probably have a number in your mind, right? When people like think about what do you think the number is okay, we're the greater Boston area. It's not the lowest cost place on the planet. But if you had to have childcare for kids as they were growing up, I mean,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Well, I did actually have childcare in
Oh,
a short amount of time that I was working full time with my kids. So I was probably working 50 hours a week. That's why I stopped. And we had a family friend who worked at probably, and this is 10 years ago. So at the time, I believe it was like close to 1,500 a week
a week.
childcare. That was 10 years ago, and it was a family friend. If you were to go through an agency or I don't even know now, it's definitely more.
Yeah.
So that was what the figure is that we were paying, and it's just unreasonable to pay that for. But like some people have no choice.
Right.
We never went the
This,
daycare route. I
yeah.
always had someone in the house primarily because of my son. But daycare is just as expensive. These
It's a
daycares are
huge issue. And it's interesting to me. It's very interesting to me that we have a shortage of babies in America, a big shortage of babies, which is really affecting Social Security, Medicare, a lot of things, a lot less workers entering the workforce 18 years from now because they're not being born today. And we have a declining birth rate. We have a lot of stuff. But all that being said, economically, and the numbers are all there. Um, like we need more babies, but we don't seem to do anything to support what they call family formation. Like people talk a good game about helping families, but no one has been able to put together a meaningful way for a couple of working parents, and two-person couples have the same struggle. because they have to both work to make their lifestyle. They haven't put together a child care alternative that beats Lou and Anna Sorgi. I mean, I'm just saying that it's a
No.
if you don't have grandparents, you are way behind the eight ball, excuse me. And it's not just a culturally great thing for the kids to hang out with their own family. It is economically a huge thing. I don't know who's going to solve it. I know that, some people are nibbling around the edges of the cookie. They're trying to
Yeah.
put something together. There's a politician trying to put something together on childcare, but it's a really enormous issue for family formation.
It absolutely is. And everybody that I know has, had their parents, if they were, lucky enough to have their parents around, helping out with the kids, watching the kids, whether it be a weekend night, over a weekend, during the day with rides. When I was going through my divorce, I'd have for 1 year, I had one of my parents driving that 30-minute um, drive to pick my son up because I just couldn't do it and work and do all of the other things. So they're instrumental, and it's a absolute game changer, actually a necessity. Like, I don't know how people do it without.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't.
It's a big mystery. We have worked through this issue with a lot of people. And I will say, without like exposing the entire Sorgi family enterprise, but I do think that some of it does start with an intelligent look at where everybody's living, what their real estate situations are,
Mhm.
trying to maybe not necessarily mash them all tightly together, but at least get them within maybe a few miles of each other or something. Because
Yeah, yeah.
my brother's going through it right now. My brother's uh, son, Vinny, or as Nick says, my cousin Vinny, has the first grandbaby in the family, little Rosie, named after my mom. But she's in Ventura, California.
Yeah.
So a grandchild in Ventura, California, with a dual working couple. And my brother and his wife are in Sudbury, Mass, which they're just about to sell their house and move because it's just,
Too
you
far.
know, it's 3,000 miles is an obstacle. It's very difficult to overcome. So I think right now, the Sorgi family followed that by fixing the geography. You
Yeah.
guys are quite close,
So,
right?
my brother started out in New York after when he first launched his career. I was out in California. The minute that we were gonna have kids, both of us, we both kind of navigated back to New England and up on the North Shore. My parents still funny live on the South Shore, but we built an in-law apartment years ago in our home in North Reading. And they do use it from time to time. It's there for them. It's hard to keep them like in one place for too long. So they travel a lot and they love their house in the South Shore. And so but they do, and that the whole intent of that apartment was to, at the time, help us, afford a house that we could live in with their growing family. And now they're helping me as a single, parent with like the parenting and they're just always they were there and instrumental throughout the divorce, so financially and otherwise.
Well,
um
that's what I was just going to ask you about. So this would be for those people that are multitasking and struggling through stuff. Give me a snapshot of Andrea's week. What is your week? Look, this is going to be okay. Don't start laughing. I mean, try to not blow everybody's fuses, but give us a 7 days in the life of Andrea. What does it look like?
oh my gosh, well, it's ever changing, first of all, because it just is. But what it from, I'd say, before, let's say, 9 o'clock, no, before, let's say, 8 o'clock, I wake up, take the dogs out, get the kids ready for school, make sure they have everything they need, send them on their way. I start work around 8:30 or 9. I get a solid 8:30 to 9 to like 2:30 in. Um, and then I pick the kids up, make sure they're all set, take them to their activities. That entails, on any given day, it could be my son is in Dungeons and Dragons Club. My daughter has soccer and basketball and all kinds of things. So that's from like 2:30 till dinner time, and I pick them up, bring them home, we feed everybody. Um, and then at night I catch up on work, the work that I missed during the day. So that's like a typical schedule. Um, I have a carpool in the afternoon, so I don't always have to do the driving, but that's just a normal day. There's also appointments for the kids, and there's play dates, and there are games on the weekends, and inevitably I'm picking up the phone and calling mom and dad and saying, "Hey guys, can you run down here and watch my son while I go pick up my daughter?" Or like it's often unpredictable as well. And work too. Sometimes I have to work at night. Sometimes I have to do afternoon meetings. So we just roll with it. I've learned to be very flexible and roll with the day to day, because it you never know what, especially with kids, you never know what it's going to bring. And then running my own practice, I can flex, well, my own subset of our practice. I own, uh, you never like, it's flexible until you have to be there, right? And then when you have to be there, that's fine. You just have to work around it. So
Okay, so we got a couple of things, and I'm not going to keep you much longer, but so for the young multitasking moms, I've heard from other moms they have a really hard time explaining to their kids why they have to be away 12 hours a day. You
yeah.
know, I mean, do you have to overcome like, how come you're not with me all day, mom? You know?
Absolutely, especially when I do things in the evening hours that like pertain to work, or if I have to, if I can't be there for pickup. Kids like, and all moms know this, kids thrive on structure and routine, and no one wants to be the last mom in the pickup line, because you'll hear about it for the next 6 months that you were the last one to pick up your kid. So I would say, they'll always, kids will, at least mine, will try to kind of get as much as they can from you, and as long as I'm sort of transparent and clear and open about, hey, this is for work, this is for all of us, I'm doing this for us, they'll understand. They'll let you know that they're not happy about it, but they'll understand why I'm there and why I can't be there, all these, why I can't go on one of their field trips, or why I won't be there at pickup and someone else will be. And I think they're more resilient than people give them credit for. They can really adapt well, and also being communicative with them, like letting them know they're able to understand, like, hey, I'm here all the time with you, and I work, and that's how we pay our bills, and how we can do fun stuff together. So they, whether they care to admit it or not, they hear that. So I try to just maintain open and honest communication, and just let them know sometimes it has to happen.
Yeah, so I got to ask you. All right, so that's the 5 days a week, right? School, whatever. Then you have the big aha on Saturday and Sunday, which I hear from Lou. He just stands by the sidelines and watches them play sports or whatever,
Yes, he's very
and
involved,
very
very
involved,
involved in
which
the
is a
career and
great,
parent.
you're so lucky. It's a great thing. But do
So
you ever
lucky.
get any like personal time? My wife Linda was saying, that there's a certain amount of time that she has to have in her life. I don't ask about the cost of the hair and the nails and stuff, but whether it's Pilates or this or that, do you ever manage to just get some personal time for, your own skull?
Well, I think it's important to do that, because they always say, like, if you're not happy, your kids will not be happy. They take on your own stress. So if you're not taking care of yourself, then like you're not going to be as good of a parent as you could be. That said, it is hard, because when you're so focused on raising your children, you tend to put yourself last. Um, since I've been divorced, and there is sometimes where my kid's dad will have them. I try to prioritize my own stuff during those times when I don't have them. But if that's not possible, and I know it's not possible for everybody to do that, then yeah, it's a balancing act, right? It's a balancing act. So you really do have to put some yourself, you gotta carve out some time. And also, like, it's okay to carve out time for yourself, because you need to be well balanced in order to be there for your kids. And you're also modeling that behavior for them, right? So, you want to model that, like, it's important to take care of your own needs, whether that be emotional, or whether it be your hair and nails, I don't know. Whatever it is for you, it's
Whatever it is
important.
that gives you
Yeah,
that, 45 minutes of escapism,
absolutely.
yoga, Pilates, hair and nails. I mean, I can't say enough about my wife when she comes back from hair and nails. It's always like It's like it's a good day. All right, so we're gonna wrap up in a few minutes, and I want to just like talk about a few things for those folks that are watching. And again, this discussion with Andrea Sorgi Spano. ESQ was designed for a couple of particular purposes. I mean, she is a superstar survivor and a person who can be inspirational to uh, folks who are having maybe a few bumps in their lives, and then they have to go back and get more education. I guess the number one thing is you can do it. I mean, I would say, Andrea, you're a great role model for young people, not just like young moms, but you can pull it off. Number one. Number two, I do think you have the flexible thing is really important. I mean, if you think it's going to be always up, up and away every day, I mean, you have uh, to disabuse yourself of that.
Mhm.
And when you know, you get hit with something, you try to turn that lemon into lemonade and learn from it and move on, right? And and I guess the third thing is you're a professional, which means that you never stop learning in any profession. It's continuing education, it's staying up with your skills. So, this is you chew off a big hunk, but which means you're going to be able to do great work for people and their kids going forward with a huge dose of real life PhD experience. So, I mean, I find that like super valuable. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to steal this 45 minutes out of your day when you don't even have 45 minutes to yourself. But I mean, the hair and nails look okay, so I'm not going to say anything about that. But
Well, I'm
but
happy to
true,
do it, and
it's a
it's been a
huge
pleasure.
sacrifice, and I want to thank you very much. And we will try and turn you into a role model for other young moms, young working moms, young moms that are going back to school, young moms getting another degree. I mean, that's a full plate. In fact, it's dripping over the sides. And people that follow us on the channel, you'll see more of Andrea and the Sorgi family law firm over this sort of like odyssey that we're on with my third act. After doing the other practice for a bunch of years, we're doing this like outreach education. I think if it helps one of the single moms out there realize they can actually do it, right? Then we won today. So thank you, Andrea Spano, Sorgi Spano, excuse me. All right. And I'll see you all next time on Smart Financial. Thank you.
Thank you.